to today's class. For today, I have a set of blocks with me, and I encourage you to do the same if you have that available. For today's class, we're going to be working into a variety of lunges, just working into that space, which can be a little bit more difficult depending on your body, your mobility, your flexibility, all that kind of stuff. So what blocks can do is help kind of give you a little bit of a lift, a little bit of more support when exploring these different positions. So when you have your space to practice, when you have what you need, let's go ahead and meet in a child's pose. And when coming into this child's pose, we're going to use the blocks right off the bat. And this is going to be a variation of child's pose. So what I mean by that is you're going to have your toes tucked to start. Your hands are going to be on your blocks. Okay, towards the top of the mat as if you were to use them going into downward facing dog. So kind of set yourself up from that place there. All right, so hands are going to be slightly in front of your shoulders, toes are tucked, and then you're going to make your way hips to heels. And feel free to kind of make your way into that position. So maybe you need to shimmy yourself a little bit further back so you have more of a reach through the upper body. And just find your way. Maybe toes tucked can be a little bit intense. So after a few rounds, maybe untuck the toes and just settle your hips down towards your heels if that feels better. And keeping your knees a little bit wider than the hips, giving yourself some room to sit back and down. If your toes are tucked, that brings your heels a little bit closer to your hips, so it gives you a little bit smaller range of motion to work through. And that might feel a little bit more supportive in your body. So again, play with it. And when you find your space, just settle in, keeping those palms onto the blocks. So you're creating a nice lengthening sensation through the entirety of the body. Waking up the spine, waking up the hips. Even working your way into your shoulders a little bit. Just taking note of your ability to find length, to find space in a more closed off shape. And take another 2 more breaths here in this space. Just arriving with your breath, tuning into how your body is feeling, coming onto your mat today. And coming out of your space just enough to tuck the toes if you changed your mind, brought the tops of the feet down to the earth, and then lift the knees, lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Keeping those hands on the blocks here. Feel how that lengthens your shape. Brings those hips a little bit closer towards the sky. Still staying strong and lifted within the lower body. Feel free to take some wiggles of the hips and pedals of the feet. Whatever you need to come into your space, it doesn't have to be, you can come right into your space and just linger in it. Those little movements aren't necessary, but sometimes they could feel like a little requirement to enter into this position. Whatever you feel like your body needs. Maybe a gentle sway is really all that your body's calling for. On your next inhale, lift up high onto the toes. On the exhale, deep bend in the knees, let them hover towards the earth. Sit those hips back. And then using this as your little spring to round and ripple the energy forward, rounding the spine. Coming up to high plank pose. Pausing here for just a moment. And then bending the knees, sending the hips up and back, maybe finding a gentle cow pose. As you lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Just 2 more rounds here. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Sink those hips low and towards the back of the mat, towards the heels. Using this to spring, ripple the energy forward to plank pose. Pausing here. And then sending the hips back, bending the knees, reach those hips up and back in space. One more, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward, sink low. Round and ripple, bring that energy up high into the hips before rounding through the spine, finding that plank pose. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Heels fall heavy towards the earth, hips lift nice and high. And then from here, 10 count journey towards the top of the mat, bringing the feet to the hands. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, using the blocks to keep your chest lifted. 5, 4, bringing space for your feet to come forward. 3, 2, and 1. Feet come behind the wrists, behind the blocks. Find a fold. Maybe wiggle your feet just a little bit wider than your hips. Go ahead and grab opposite elbows. And find ragdoll. Allowing the shoulders to fall away, shoulder blades to fall away from one another. As your head falls heavy, and then keeping the hips lifted up towards the sky. Knees can be bent. They don't have to be straight just yet. If you do decide to find a straighter position within the legs, keep that tailbone, those sit bones lifting up towards the sky. Let the crown of the head softly, subtly reach towards the earth, feeling a nice traction within the cervical spine, within the neck, the upper back. And allow the natural tendency of that weight shift side to side, forward, back, wherever it may bring you, allow it to happen. Go ahead and release hands from the elbows, hands onto the blocks. Find an inhale, halfway lift. Feel free to adjust the height of the blocks as you need to support you in your space. Drawing the collarbones forward, driving the shoulder blades down the back body to find a nice long back body, strong back body. Exhale, forward fold. Again, just adjust the blocks. Inhale, root to rise, drive through the soles of the feet. Slowly round and ripple the energy all the way up towards ceiling as the knees straighten, hips come forward. Inhale, arms up and overhead. Stretch out nice and tall and long. Exhale. Hands come to heart center. As your hands come to heart center, feel free to soften the gaze, close the eyes. Just taking a moment to tune into your connection, feet to the earth. Just finding a moment of gratitude. Set an intention for your flow. Your purpose for coming onto your mat today. For sharing space here with me in class. Inhale, arms reach up high and towards the sky. Stretch it out, reach tall. Exhale, hands come through heart center as you hinge forward. Once you find that fold, your hands come to the blocks. Inhale, halfway lift. Adjust the blocks as you need. Maybe bringing them on to a higher height. Exhale, fold. Drop those blocks down. Inhale, plant the hands. Big step of the left foot back in space. Let that big toe, the toe mounds come down to the earth. And then maybe wiggle that right foot a little bit wider. As you come into this space, Again, adjust the blocks as you need. If having them on that medium height feels good, keep them there. If you need a little bit more lift to the chest, go ahead and do that. So if you find you need a bit more lift, you're not able to come as deeply into the hips just yet, bring them onto a higher height. So in this space, maybe find a nice little bounce. Don't make it big, make it comfy. So as you come into that right knee a little bit more, those hips just fall closer towards the earth. But you're still keeping that supportive space with the use of your blocks. And then from here, keeping those hips nice and low, are you able to drop that back knee straight down? Bringing that knee down towards the earth, untucking the toes. So now when finding that transition, it can feel like keeping that open space is a little bit more challenging to access. You might find that you're a little bit more upright, or that your stance is a little bit smaller. Maybe that back hip isn't able to open as much. And with that, I encourage you to, again, use those blocks to your advantage to explore that. If you do find that your stance is a little bit smaller, are you able to use those blocks to support your upper body as you maybe walk that leg back a little bit? Lengthen your stance. And maybe keeping those toes tucked right now helps you kind of wiggle your hips down into the space. Kind of dropping the hips low and then pulling them up and out of it, using your low belly to help encouraging you in and out of this space. And if you don't have blocks, you can always find these weight shifts by supporting yourself on your right thigh. Just checking in with your body. How much are you able to hinge in that front hip, extend in that back hip? Feel that difference side to side. Where do you feel like you're most limited? Do you feel like you're pinching in the front of that hip? Do you feel like extending that back leg long just feels like too big of a motion? Come on out of that space for just a moment. So now we are going to find that nice tall shape. Untuck the back toes this time around. And with the untuck of those toes, lift through the low belly, lift those hip points up and away. So you're coming out of that front hip just a little bit more. And you can use the arms up and overhead to find that length if that feels good. You can take a block with you if you need that support, that stability, fingertips to the top of the block. Just see what this feels like coming up and out of it. And then come on back down to those blocks, bring the hands inside that right foot, tuck the back toes, lift that back knee, come back into that high lunge. Hands down on the blocks. Now we're going to work our way into and out of this space. So go ahead, drop that back knee straight down. Pull the hip points forward, find that depth. Feel the stretch at the front of that left hip. Exhale, press that left leg to straight. Inhale low. Lift, keep that chest lifted. Exhale, press to straight. Keep that spine nice and long. Inhale, lower. Exhale, straighten. Inhale, lower. Exhale, straighten. Stay here. And then go ahead and press that right leg to straight. Come back into extended pyramid pose. Drop that left heel a little bit heavier. Maybe walk those blocks underneath you. Just coming out of that front hip a little bit. Bend into that front knee. Plant the blocks at the top of your mat. Wiggle that right foot behind that right block. Big step of the left foot forward. Find that forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Nice long spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, round and ripple yourself all the way to stand. Open yourself up. Big sweep of the arms up overhead. Exhale, hands come through heart center. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Open up. Big and loud, big and open. Reach nice and tall, lift away from the hips, and then exhale, hands come to heart center, hinge the hips forward. Maybe wiggle the feet a little bit wider. And then big step of the left foot back towards the back of the mat. Make your stance as open as you need. So if bringing that left foot towards the edge of the mat is helpful, find that space. And then again, rock it forward, back. Into this space. Coming a little bit further into that left knee. Letting the hips fall a little bit heavier. Driving that right heel back in space. Feel the front of that right hip opening as you come a little bit further into the depth of that left hip, that left knee. So whether that's a lift and lower of the hips closer towards the earth or a rock forward and back is like kind of like you're shimmy, kind of sawing yourself through wood almost. So like as a saw, as you go back and forth, you find yourself a little bit closer to the center. It's almost like that sensation. As you go forward and back, you're finding your way a little bit closer and closer to the mat. And in a way where you're able to keep integrity of the hips. You're able to keep that right hip even with the left. You're able to keep the low belly lifted, the spine nice and long, the crown of the head reaching long. Creating space with integrity with the rest of the body and mind. And then from here, pause. Find your depth, find your space. And then go ahead and drop that back knee. Give yourself a rest. And then when you drop the back knee, are you able to keep that length? This is a really big open space we're in right now. So if you find that you have to close yourself off, and by that, I mean, so my knee is pretty far back behind me, so I'm able to find quite a bit of depth in this space, but you may find that you're in a position where you're kind of like in a crouched type position. Your stance is a little bit closer. If you feel like that is you, bring the blocks a little bit higher. Lift yourself out of this space. With that lift, with that support, either try bending a little bit deeper into that left knee. That's an option. Or keep the bend in that left knee. Walk those right toes back in space. Can you bring that knee a little bit further back behind you? Those are the two options that you have. But start with lifting the chest. Lifting yourself up on that block, on those blocks, and see where that brings you. When you find your way into a space that feels good, find a lift of that right hip point, lift of the low belly. Just to bring integrity into your space. We're still allowing those hip points to kind of fall into this little bowl you're creating for yourself. And then hands to the thighs. Go ahead and bring yourself fully out of it. So now you are in a more lifted space. Almost like you're in a 90-90, so that hip and knee joint is making a 90-degree angle. That front hip and knee joint is creating a 90-degree angle. Lift through the low belly. Feel the length from the kneecap all the way through the front of that right hip point. You can stay here or lift that right arm up and overhead to explore a little bit more length in this space. Hands come back down to the blocks. Put them on a height that feels good for you. You can stay on that higher height, you can bring them lower. But from here, keeping those back toes tucked, exhale, press, tighten that thigh, lift the back knee, press the back of that knee up and back behind you. Inhale, lower. Straight down, trying to keep that length for that long line of energy between the left hamstring and the right thigh. Exhale, lift. Keep that right hip point. Feel that lift. Inhale, drop. Exhale, lift. Feel that engagement, that drive through the right heel. Inhale, drop. Exhale, press and lift. Inhale, drop. Exhale, press and lift. Drive that right heel, engage that right thigh. And then take a break. Exhale, extended pyramid pose. Keep letting that right heel come down towards the earth as the left toes lift. Blocks can come underneath you to feel nice and supportive in this space. Drop the left foot down. Bring the blocks towards the top of the mat. Wiggle that left foot back and behind the block. Big step of the right foot forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Draw the chest and heart. Shoulder blades drop down. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise. Round and ripple to stand. Arms up overhead, big inhale. Expand, lift, reach, open. Exhale, hinge down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. So for our next few rounds, we're going to move through those same positions, just with a little bit more pace. So take a breath to prepare. On the inhale, go ahead, plant the hands, big step of the left foot back in space. Find that runner's lunge. Feel free to make that stance as wide as you need to make room for yourself. Draw the hips down, pull the chest and heart forward. Find that long line of energy with that strength in the legs. Drop that knee straight down. Inhale, lift up. Anjaneyasana. Can you find that strength in your shape and lift through the fingertips? Stretching out, coming out of this space. And you can also find a taller shape here if that feels better for you and your body, if you're still working into that depth. And feel free to stay here, keeping your arms lifted if you want to challenge yourself, or you can still use blocks. Options here. If your arms are lifted, you're going to exhale, press through those back toes, lift that back knee. Inhale, low. Exhale, rise. Inhale, lower. Hands can be on the blocks. Inhale, exhale, rise. Inhale, lower. One more round. Exhale, drive it up. Inhale, lower. Exhale, drive. And then straighten through that right leg, extended pyramid pose. Use those blocks as you need. Bend back into that right leg, plant the blocks at the top of the mat. Hands to the blocks. Take your weight into that right foot to bring the left foot forward. Find your fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise. Stretch it up, open up. Exhale, hands come through heart center, forward fold. Come back down to the earth. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Left foot stays planted, big step of the right foot back in space. Find that runner's lunge. Use those blocks for support. Come into that left knee. Let those hips fall heavy. Drop the back knee. You can stay low in your Anjaneyasana, or you can be lifted. Inhale, arms reach up overhead. And by low, I mean letting those hips sink and sling forward. But still staying strong in the belly. Or you can come up higher if this feels more supportive. Wherever you are, find your breath. In our next transition, hands can stay up and overhead, or you can use your blocks. Bring them inside the hip, inside that left foot. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, drive through that back toe, lift the back knee. Right hip is still lifted and reaching forward. Inhale, lower. Exhale, drive and lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. On the exhale, use those blocks, send those hips back in space. Extended pyramid pose. Drop that back heel. Use the blocks to find length within the spine. Pulling that left hip back in space. Then back into that left knee. Plant the blocks. Take your weight into that left foot, right foot steps forward, find your fold. Adjust your feet, inhale, halfway lift. Pull the chest and heart forward, send those hips back in space, like there is a rope across your hip points, or across your hinge point, and you're pulling it back. It's pulling you back, pulling you back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise, all the way up, unravel, open. Exhale, fold. Hands come to the blocks, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, plant the hands, big step of the right foot back. Find that runner's lunge. Draw that right heel back in space. Let the hips sink low. Drop the back knee straight down if you feel like you have a nice long stance. Inhale, arms up overhead. Again, if your stance is a little bit more narrow, lift through the low belly, even more lift through our right hip point. Reach from this space. And then maybe work your way into shifting that weight forward, finding a little bit more depth. Stay here or use the blocks as you need to work through that back leg. Exhale, press through the big toes, drive that heel straight in that leg. Inhale, lower. Exhale, drive. Inhale, lower. Trying to keep that left front knee, left hip as stationary as you can. Exhale, drive. Inhale, lower. Exhale, drive. Inhale, lower. On that next round, exhale, drive that leg to straight and then send those hips back, extended pyramid pose. Find your breath, find your length. Bend back into that left knee, plant the blocks. Take weight into that left foot, bring the right foot forward, find your fold, adjust your feet. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise up, ravel, ripple, open yourself up. Receive that energy. Take it all in. Exhale, pull it in towards you as you forward fold, hands to heart center. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. Adding on, inhale, hands plant, big step of the left foot back in space. Find that runner's lunge. Keep that narrow stance if that's available to you. Let that left hip sink low. Drop the back knee. Inhale, lift up, Anjaneyasana, find your space here. Again, wherever you are, whether your hips are low, whether you're nice and lifted, you're still strong and lifted within those hips. Integrity within the low belly to support you in your space. On the exhale, without blocks this time, drive through that back toe, lift the back knee, find that high lunge. Strong within that front right leg. Lengthen within that back leg. Reach into those fingertips for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Drop the back knee straight down nice and slow. Use that left block underneath the left hand. Inhale, reach the right arm up and towards the sky, finding a twisted lizard lunge. From here, you can stay here if this feels like your end point, or maybe you've worked your way into your hips enough where you feel like you can reach back, catch that left ankle. Can you find a full twisted lizard lunge with the catch of the back leg? If you find that catch, are you able to let those hips Sink into your space. Here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the hold. Hands come back onto the blocks. Use both of them to help lift the back legs. Send the hips back in space. Extended pyramid pose. Find that fold. Maybe you're able to come deeper into your space and the blocks aren't as on high of a height. Plant that right foot. Adjust your blocks. Bringing the left foot forward to meet the right. Find your forward fold. Exhale. Inhale. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise, gravel, take it slow, press through the soles of your feet, arms up overhead, reach for all that energy. And exhale, pull it all back in, find that fold, hands to heart center. Finishing that exhale. Inhale, we halfway lift. Exhale, we fold. On the inhale, plant the hands to the blocks, big step with the right foot back in space. Find your runner's lunge. Hips sink low. Pull the chest and heart forward. Drop the back knee. Wherever it's able to land, inhale those arms up overhead. Keep hugging that front knee in. Lift through the low belly. Reach through those fingertips. Staying lifted, staying strong within the lower body. On the exhale, drive through those that back big toe man. Reach that right heel back in space, straighten-ish through that right leg. Strong and integrated through the lower body. Here for 5, 4, engage the back of that glute to help extend that leg back. For 3, 2, 1, slowly lower down with control, soften onto that knee. Right block underneath that right hand. Inhale, spin the chest and heart over towards the left side. Find that twisted lizard lunge. Drop into those hips. Stay here or make that connection happen if it's available. Reaching through those left fingertips, maybe you're catching the right ankle. Finding the full expression of your twisted lizard lunge. Here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the back leg. Pinwheel that left hand back onto that block. Bring that left block to meet the right. Send straighten through that back leg. Straighten through the front leg. Extended pyramid pose. Lengthening through the back of that left leg, dropping that right hip in, lifting the collarbones. Bend back into that left knee, adjust the blocks. Big step with the right foot forward, find your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise. All the way up, nice and slow. Arms reach up overhead. Pulling in that last bit of energy. Reach up nice and tall for it. Stretch it out. Exhale, pull it all in. Gather it all into heart center as you fall forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, plant the hands. Step your feet back one at a time, finding your downward facing dog. Feeling how this downward facing dog, how this shape feels compared to the beginning of class. How your legs feel, your hips feel. Maybe into the lower part of your spine. Just take note of the ease of coming into the shape compared to first thing in today's class. Roll over the toes, drop the knees. A little bit wider than hips width distance. Tuck the toes this time around, sit the hips back towards the heels. Child's pose. Maybe hooking your fingertips over the far edge of the blocks to feel a little bit of traction within the shoulders. And as you traction slightly through the upper body, you're still subtly reaching those sit bones, that tailbone towards the heels. So we're finding nice length through the low back, the back of the hips. And then let go of the blocks. Go ahead and walk the hands back towards your knees. Find a kneeling position. Just as a transition point to find your way onto your back. So finding your way onto your hips, knees bent. And go ahead and slowly lower down. Bringing the blocks to the side, but still making them accessible as you slowly lower. Round the spine down. Once the back of your head comes down to the earth, wiggle those feet nice and wide. And allow the knees to knock together. One hand on the chest, one hand on the belly. As you relax through the hips, the low back. Connect to your breath. Send all of that energy into those spaces that we worked on here in class today. And then go ahead and wiggle the feet towards one another so they're parallel. And then go ahead and bring the right knee in towards the chest, keeping the left foot planted. So when you bring that right knee in towards the chest, take note of the sensations in that right hip, and even the left hip. We're still getting a nice stretch to the back side of that right hip here. But if able, if your body allows, extend that left leg long and see how that changes the depth of this space. So this mimics what our lower body was doing throughout class today, in just a more supportive space. With the right leg forward, the left leg back. Obviously the left leg can only go so far because of the earth beneath you, so that left leg is now coming into more neutral position. Versus earlier on, we were trying to expand beyond that space to see what was available. Find a nice little gentle twist just for a moment. And come back to center. Squeeze that right knee back in, bring that left foot back to the earth. The right foot meets the left, switch sides. The left knee in towards the chest, hug it in. And keeping that same positioning here, take note of the sensations now. And then when you extend that right leg long as the body allows. Do you feel a difference? Are you able to get there? Is that available to you? Are you able to keep the upper body, the torso, the back, the shoulder blades, are able to keep that resting on the earth as you extend that right leg long. Nice little supine twist, bring that left knee over towards the right. Coming back to center, squeeze it in. Sole of the right foot comes down to the earth. Left foot meets the right. And then go ahead and bring the knees in towards the chest, give it a squeeze. And then stay here or transition into happy baby. Grab hold of the outer blades of the feet. Draw those knees alongside the body. Feel free to rock side to side. Or find stillness. Reach an exhale one towards the top of the mat. As you draw those thighs closer towards the side body. Go ahead, bring both knees in towards the chest. And then extend the legs out in front of you. We're keeping the soles of the feet onto the earth for right now. 2 options for our final rest. So, you can use both blocks. And you can come into Supta Baddha Konasana, so you can lay on your back. Soles of the feet come towards one another, knees fall out. And then the outside edges of the knees can find support on the blocks. So that could be a nice hip opener for you today. Or option 2, a little bit more of an opening. You can use one of the blocks. Pressing the feet, lift the hips up, place the block on your sacrum, that lower part of the spine, right at the top of the tush. Okay, and you can stay here. Or if it feels good in your body, you can extend the legs long towards the top of the mat. And you can allow those big toes to roll out away from one another. And really open up through the front of the hips here. So this is another option as a front hip opener. Just allowing the blocks to support you here in this space. You are in the supported bridge or the supported hip extension. Feeling how that connection of the block onto your back body, how that's allowing your body to remain open here in this space. Very little effort on your end. And if you're in that supportive or reclined butterfly position, you're still getting the benefits of opening up through the front of the hips, the inner thigh. That could be a space where you're able to get that sensation of opening, maintain that opening that you created, but with a little bit more support. Using your breath to send all of that positive energy throughout your body and continue to release whatever lingers that's not required, it's not needed, both in this moment and moving forward into your day. Giving all of that positive energy to the hips, to all that space you created. Giving your body the opportunity to maintain that space in a nice supportive environment here in this moment. And I want you to take at least another 5 more breaths. And when you're ready to come out of your space, you can either stay here a little bit longer, or if you would like to end your practice in Shavasana, that is always welcome. It's always a welcomed opportunity. So take advantage of that as you need. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I hope you enjoyed this nice, slow, steady flow to create space within your lunges. Hopefully you learned a little bit something about you and your body transitioning with the supportive blocks. I hope that also encourages you to use supports moving forward in class and using that to progress your practice. Thank you so much for practicing with me. If you enjoyed this flow, please like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any of the classes that post every Monday. Thanks again, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.